Everyone seeing is everyone seeing the PowerPoint? Just want to make sure that's working. Yep. Okay. So I put this session together kind of last minute. We've been talking about these things at DU for quite a while, and it kind of forced me to put it in a presentation mode. If you've ever seen me present or met me in person, you know that I can talk very quickly and get very excited about technology conversations. And so having things put into a slide is a way for me to sort my own thoughts. And so essentially, I can double dip here, doing a presentation for everyone here while also getting work done that I needed to do anyway. So here we go. So managing Drupal like Salesforce. My name is Kevin Reinen. I am a lead developer at the University of Denver now. I was at the University of Colorado for many years, and I'll talk a bit about that. I am going to copy these slides, links, lots of additional information to my Dev2 site. I will do that within the hour after finishing this presentation. But as you'll see, I've been working on this right up until the session started. So my last name is pronounced Reinen, like rye bread, but I've tried to make it easy on everyone. If you just Google Kevin Drupal beard, you will find me and all of these resources. So why listen to me? Why am I qualified to talk about this? And really, it's because I quit Drupal. So if you were at DrupalCon Nashville at the Ask Dries session, I asked the question about the end of life of Drupal 7. And during that whole conference, I was wearing a t-shirt begging people to convince me that it was worth the effort to upgrade 1,000 sites running on an EDU domain from Drupal 7 to modern Drupal. And a lot of people made a lot of great points, and we continued to pursue Drupal. But ultimately, we thought, the development team thought it wasn't worth the effort. And so I really quit Drupal in 2018. We spent about a year exploring other alternatives instead of upgrading to Drupal. The development team, after doing deep dives into a number of CMS solutions, pushed to move to Backdrop. That was rejected. The second choice was WordPress. That was also rejected. And so the only real option was to upgrade. And if you were involved in Drupal during Drupal 8, it was a painful process back then. So the team that took over after I left took 4 years to upgrade all of the features and functionality from Drupal 7 and finally got it launched recently on Drupal 10. But that is what they did. They upgraded the functionality that was really designed back in Drupal 5 and didn't change the approach very much other than using modern PHP on the back end. And so I had worked with Civi CRM, which is a PHP CRM solution. I had integrated that with Drupal and WordPress in the past. I had also done a lot of Drupal to Salesforce API integrations. And so an opportunity presented itself, an advancement at CU to migrate a custom Drupal commerce solution that allowed people to make donations to funds. So instead of treating the products like a t-shirt, the product was a fund and you were making an online donation. And so we had about 2,000 funds that people could choose from. So you could donate to the top level funds, donate to a whole campus or a whole college academic program, but you could donate to the ultimate Frisbee team that your kid was part of as well. And so it gave people a lot of choice, but it was a very customized solution, expensive to maintain. And so the decision was made to move to Salesforce's Ascend Advancement, which used to be run by a group called UCI, which I always thought had something to do with the University of California. It turns out the University of California was just one of their customers. And so the company is now called, I got to move my KindSight. So that was learning Salesforce from the Salesforce admin up. And so it was all new to me, very exciting, and was really the best decision I ever made. And that is because I've been at this a long time. I have a number of eras of web development under my belt. I also have a 9-year-old daughter, so this is the slide that makes her think I'm cool. So I started making HTML by hand, like a lot of people. Used BBEdit, would fetch the files up to a server that was usually using the public HTML directory of a Unix machine. That's how I got started. The only big change I made in the first several years of my career was moving to server-side scripting. And that's largely because I'm lazy, or just a type of person that doesn't like to copy and paste the same thing over and over again. So anytime I can automate something, I'm definitely going to do it. And so I would automate my own solutions, which then led to full CRUD-based solutions, learned how to go from flat file solutions to MySQL. But often it was editing on live. And I'll talk a little bit more about where things went from here, but I do want to switch gears and talk about this session as it relates to previous presentations I've given. So I did a session at Stanford's Web Camp back in 2022, where I talked about replacing expensive third-party forms with native Drupal web forms and integrating those forms in the back end with solutions like Pardot. At DrupalCamp New Jersey, several years later, I did another session about empowering site builders using Pantheon services and their Webops methodology. Those sessions are both available online. I will reference them from time to time as I'm talking right now, but there's a lot here. So if I'm going too fast and you want to get some of the background on this, it's useful to watch those. So literally gave this presentation on a Saturday, came back to see you, and I was laid off that Monday. So that wasn't a surprise. The project I'd been working on was to start a 4th online campus at the University of Colorado. That project ended about 6 months after it started. But we had signed agreements that were 3-4 years with multiple vendors. And so it took several years to wind that down, which gave me a lot of free time to explore what I'm going to be talking to you about today. So again, moving to a Salesforce solution, stepping away from Drupal for several years was the first time I had made a big change since starting to do server-side scripting. I moved from CGI bin to active server pages to PHP, but it was all very similar. So a developer built the solution. We provided a form for the subject matter expert, and that person filled out the form, and that's what allowed people to publish content. And so I made a career out of, I no longer built websites. I built applications that allowed people who didn't know HTML to contribute to websites. And that was what I did, regardless of platform framework. It was the same thing, CRM, CMS, didn't matter. But it wasn't until I started working with Salesforce that I really understood kind of the limitations of what we had been doing in Drupal with features and why that was never going to be enough. But I want to talk about the things that CMSs and CRMs have in common, and specifically Drupal and Salesforce. So if you're watching this from the Salesforce side, if I get any of these things wrong, please let me know. My experience is I have a lot more experience with Drupal than I do with Salesforce, but I think most of this is accurate. So the idea here is that if you apply Salesforce practices, policies, best practices to your CMS, you will be able to both coordinate between those two types of projects, as well as provide stable, secure, accessible, brand compliant CMS solutions that meet your organization's marketing needs, which is usually the goal most of us have. So both of these solutions are apps on stacks. Salesforce, it seems like it's a software as service that you buy, but it's Apex running on Oracle. Apex stands for Advanced Programming Experience. If you think PHP is a dated application language, Apex was developed by Oracle more than 20 years ago. It's basically a custom version of Java. Salesforce introduced Lightning Web Components in 2015. And that is kind of a game changer in the Salesforce ecosystem. So if you're involved in the Salesforce, the switch to Lightning was a really big deal. So Drupal can run as a multi-tenancy solution, runs multi-site or groups to create inline sites. It runs on a LAMP stack, which used to mean Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP. PHP has been around since 1995, but PHP had been really modernized by Facebook between PHP 5 and PHP 7. So modern PHP is really very little like the original PHP. So Drupal introduced single directory components in 2023. It's relatively new, but it is very similar to Salesforce's Lightning Web Components. So if you understand one, you're going to understand the other. If you've ever gone to Salesforce's status page, you probably know which of these your Salesforce instance is located on. So if there's an outage, the information about that outage is shared here. These are all multi-tenancy solutions. So unless you're the Department of Defense, you are sharing these resources with everyone else using that instance. So this is a Pingdom interface we have at the University of Denver. These are all of the Drupal instances we run on Pantheon. Pantheon is providing us containers for a database file system in PHP. And there are inline sites on a lot of these instances. So each one of these is a CMS instance that has multiple sites within it. So open versus closed. I'm presenting this as things that are the same. Most of you think of Salesforce as being closed source, Drupal as being open source. That is not the whole story on either side. So Lightning Web Components are open source. If you run these 3 node commands, you will be running Lightning Web Components without paying Salesforce a dime. Salesforce does this in the hopes that people will create applications running on Heroku that connect to Salesforce, but you can use it for anything. You don't have to license Salesforce to use Lightning Web Components. Salesforce also has the Open Commons. This is a group that hosts sprints, and I will warn you, if you are a developer and you go to one of these sprints, it is not like your typical open source code sprint. Most of the people there are Salesforce admins focused on the business process. The big advantage if you are a Drupal developer, if you just know the basics of version control, GitHub, you are going to be very much in demand on these projects. So a lot of these are managed in GitHub. You can see all of the commits just like you can any other open source project. I wanted to share the flip side of this as well. If you're involved in the Drupal community, unless you have been under a rock the last 6 months, you are aware of the announcement Dries made at DrupalCon Atlanta. Drupal is getting a marketplace, which is not going to be completely open source. So I chair the licensing working group for the Drupal Association. So this is something that's been talked about for many years, and I was actually shocked that it is moving forward as quickly as it is. It took me almost 4 years to convince Dries that it was okay that we upload fonts and Creative Commons licensed images into GitLab, and this has gone at Mach speed. So very exciting. So yeah, open source, closed, both solutions have a mix of each. Both solutions are a core solution with packages added on top of that. Managed packages are available on the App Exchange as well as open packages. So if you search for Open Commons, you're going to find a lot of these open source packages. In Drupal, you search for modules. The interface on the App Exchange on Salesforce shows what you can do when you're charging a lot for your project versus what we get when we're reliant on volunteer contributors to design things. Drupal has made a lot of project progress in a better interface for this with the project browser. If you've used this with the Drupal CMS download, it's very slick and polished. And there are initiatives going on to upgrade Drupal.org's look and feel as well, which will hopefully match this updated look and feel from the Drupal CMS project. I really like the project browser because that is how we distributed additional features and functionality at CU Boulder. We started with a core install profile, and then we boiled our frogs. We would allow users to add functionality over time, and these were pre-vetted combinations of modules packaged up into a feature. So it was designed to be configured within our install profile. We shared that code, but it was really limited. It worked as long as you were using our install profile. This was not an approach that was going to scale universally, where the new project browser functionality is very much designed to scale. So in the App Exchange, if you're looking at a individual package that you're thinking about adding to your Drupal instance or your Salesforce instance, you get a lot of information about pricing and what it does, nice screenshots, everything's really nice, but it's hard to figure out who's actually behind it unless it's a commercial entity. So with the Summit Events package, you would have to work pretty hard to realize that this is called Summit Events because the University of St. Thomas is located on Summit Avenue in St. Paul, Minnesota, and it's developers of the university that are behind that package. So it's open source, it's managed by a university, it's something that the Drupal community is very familiar with. These are the minority of packages on Salesforce, but it is possible, and there are groups that do it. If you are a Salesforce using organization, I highly recommend taking a look at Summit Events. The University of St. Thomas has really done an amazing job with that solution. So in the Drupal community, we wear our contributions on our sleeve. We are very upfront about who's doing what. We have pictures of the maintainers. We give universities or agencies credit. And then we have a running list of the contrib credits for a university. And Stanford obviously contributes a lot back to the Drupal community. At the University of Denver, we've only started contributing back recently, so we don't have nearly the history that Stanford has. All right, so with both Drupal and Salesforce, they're both very easy to get started with. Anyone that's been involved in Drupal for a while has seen this picture before. This is considered the Drupal learning curve. I would argue that this is no longer true within Drupal and is equally true in Salesforce or Drupal. If you drop a newly certified Salesforce admin into a Salesforce instance that's been grown, extended, had managed packages added to it over a decade, they're going to flounder the same way that a Drupal site admin flounders when they get added to a different Drupal configuration. So if you spin up a Salesforce sandbox, you may have never used Salesforce before, but it's pretty easy to navigate your way around, figure it out. You log into a Salesforce instance with admin rights at a university that's been using it for a decade. It looks nothing like what you configured on your sandbox. There'll be some interfaces and some icons that are the same, but you can customize Salesforce so it hardly resembles Salesforce, just like you can customize Drupal. So in the session summary, I talked about how we've outsourced our Drupal training. So we hired developers based on potential more than their experience with Drupal. And that became a bit of a challenge for me to train them and write code. I also am not a trainer. I'm not teaching a course on Drupal. I did not have a curriculum. And so I was just talking about things in an ad hoc way as they came up. And what that led to was me explaining how to do something in a legacy Drupal 9 build that had a lot of things that were far from best practice, and then having to tell the developer, but that's not how you do this anymore. And so that was really painful. And it was me constantly criticizing the code that we had to maintain. And so we contracted with Mike Anello, and this went amazingly well. Mike is, if you've taken any of his training, watched any of his webinars, he is great. he allowed us to customize curriculum that he had already developed to add specific days of training on topics that were specific to DU. And the result of all of that has been great. I'm not going to play this video, but I will link it on the Dev2 site. But this is what our contributions used to look like when it was me and a few junior devs that were trying to figure Drupal out. This is what it looks like now. And so if you've ever seen one of these contrib animations, you can see the activity ramp up as the developers get more confident in the skill sets and understanding how to work within Drupal. So what we don't have in the Drupal community that Salesforce just kills it on is Trailhead. So Trailhead markets itself as the fun way to learn. And my experience was that is true. I still use Trailhead today. It is a way to, the UI is slick, it's gamified, you're earning points and badges and all those fun things. But the really killer app for me, the killer feature of Trailhead is that the Trailhead lessons can look into a Salesforce sandbox and see if you properly completed the lesson. And for me, the big win there, the thing that I would love to see Drupal do, the way that Salesforce is doing that is it's looking at the config files. And now that Drupal is largely driven by config as well, that is an area where Drupal could do more of this. We're never going to get to the point that Salesforce has, because we don't have the billions of dollars that Salesforce has behind it, but we can do more of this. So again, I don't think this is really true anymore. I think the Drupal CMS package, that download distribution, is kind of a game changer with a pre-configured version of Drupal that gets you much further along. All right, so I wish I could say that I just went from creating CRUD apps to managing CRM and CMS using config, but it's been a pretty long process to get to this point. And again, the reason why I was able to kind of step back is I stopped doing Drupal for a bit. And so it's kind of hard to see the advantages of this and a different way of managing Drupal if you're always in it all the time and you've just kind of adapted slowly over time. That break I took really allowed me to change the way I think about CMSs. And so this is where we're at now. So both Drupal and Salesforce are driven by config. And that's what I'm going to talk about, how to run Drupal more like Salesforce in this regard. So I'm not going to talk a lot about GearSet. If you fill out their RFI form, they will be more than happy to do several demos and talk your ear off about all the advantages of GearSet. But if you go through the training, they explain it using this diagram. If you've used Pantheon Multidev or Platform SH or Acquia, they all have a similar workflow to this. So that part of GearSet should make sense. But the idea is that a developer or even a Salesforce admin goes into a sandbox, which is usually a partial clone of the production environment, and that allows them to make config changes, adding a new field to a contact object that can then be exported to the various testing environments all the way through to production. And all of that, if you buy GearSet, can be done without ever using the command line, without knowing anything about version control. And so we're almost ready to do the demo, but I'm going to run through what I did to prep for this. And I'm going to share all of these steps on that Dev2 site. So I installed the Drupal CMS instance on Pantheon using the link provided there. I added the config PR module. That's the only module I added. I configured GitHub and to allow tokens. That's part of how this works. I'll show that, but I'm not going to walk through that whole process. And then I configured GitHub to deploy back to Pantheon, so you can kind of see how some of this CI works. I did not have time to configure autopilot as well to do the full circle on this. So the process of enabling the module, the config PR module, is just like any other module. It's really straightforward. You do have to have a repository in GitHub that you're targeting with this. we have a template with secrets already configured in some CI already configured that we use at DU. So it's really easy for us to do this. If you aren't setting up repos for your projects, this would be an additional task. And then you basically tell config PR what the location of your repo is. You just give it the organization name and the specific project name. That's all it needs. You do have to generate a token and register the token. This token should not be made public. This is essentially giving anyone that has the token the permissions they need to write to your repo. So it would be like giving them your GitHub username and password. So you can limit which projects each token can access. We will also be moving to managing these tokens as secrets and no longer managing this within the UI. So I just want to point this out, that one step that wouldn't be required, this is in the coming soon list on Pantheon's roadmap. If and when Pantheon supports running your dev environment directly out of GitHub, that would make this configuration much easier, eliminate a whole layer of complexity and CI required to do this. Okay, so yeah, so if we can, you can vote on these things. So far, 32 people have voted for that feature to be prioritized. I have been told that Pantheon is looking at this and listening. So if you are a Pantheon customer, if you can do me a favor and click on that, that'll just help move this forward faster. Okay, so I've made the mistake of playing the MC Hammer tune in sessions before. The recording then gets posted, gets flagged as a digital millennium copyright violation, and the whole session gets taken down. So you just got to imagine that we're singing MC Hammer here. So it's demo time. Oh, I'm going to flip over. Oh, hang on. I may have to reshare here. Let me see what happens here. So are you guys? Yeah, I have to reshare. Okay, let me share my browser here. Where go? All right. I'll just share my help desktop here, and then I don't have to worry about flipping back. Okay, so again, this animation, I'll just play a few seconds of it. These are very easy to create. It's an open source package that does it, but it's a great way to make web development seem exciting. Again, I have small kids. This makes them think I'm cool versus staring at a terminal all day. All right, so I just wanted to show this, that I started this at 5 o'clock last night. Went through the process, wiped the site, and I've gone through it again. So haven't put a whole lot of time prepping this. This is all stuff everyone can do. I do want to give a shout out to Marcelo, who is here. I did not write config pull request. I used a different module with GitLab before that required a lot of expensive licensing. This module works with GitHub without that licensing. You can do this on a free GitHub account. All of the APIs needed to do this are free. And I'm really glad Marcel is here. So if people ask technical questions, I can just defer to him. So to spin up the Drupal CMS on Pantheon, there's a link that will pre-install that. So I didn't have to do anything for that. Again, created this repo. It includes our workflows. I have not fully synced this up. This just exists for the purpose of this demo. And I'm just using the Drupal CMS out of the box. So haven't added any content. And I'm just going to show what this looks like when we make config changes to this system. So I'm going to go in and make a basic change first. I already tested this once. So extra magic. So I'm going to save, my Zoom interface is in my way. All right, going to save this configuration change. And again, I'm going to go through this real quick, but I can't find a place for this no matter what I do. The interfaces to do this just extend the normal configuration interfaces. So where am I going here? Sorry, I don't use Drupal. I don't have the opportunity to use Drupal 11 that often, so I get lost in these gin menus. All right, so we're in our config synchronization. Because I've added the config PR module, I have this additional pull request tab. Everything here should look the same as what most of you are familiar with. You can see the single line change that I made here. So the thing that I'm adding is the ability to go in here, pick the specific change that I want to make, give it a title. This is generating a default branch name based on the date. This is all configurable. You can use a different pattern. So because I already did one today, I'm going to do that. And then I could write, this is a demo, and I will create the pull request. So I showed you GitHub when I was showing this, but I didn't actually need to log into GitHub to create this PR. I'm just told that PR number 2 has been created. I am going to click on this, but if I was an ambitious site builder, this is all I would need to do. So at DU, we use a little trick. We have because we use SSO for authentication, we have a user pre-save hook that if you're logging into a multi-dev, dev, or test environment and you're a site builder, you're full admin. So the only place that site builders are not full admin is in production. So we've essentially sandboxed all of our other environments. And as a result, they can go in and change whatever they want. And so if I flip over to the GitHub side, I can see that because I haven't fully configured our CI, the full code base is not here yet. It fails in the first step of validating the composer file. But whatever testing you've written, if you're running it, however you're running it through your version control, as soon as the PR comes in, it's going to be retested to make sure all the critical features that you care about are still functioning based on the change a non-developer has suggested you deploy to production. But if I drill into the change, here I can see the exact same changes with that I saw on the other side of when I was looking at the UI on the Drupal side. I actually did the wrong config file, but here I'll go back to the first PR I created. So here I can see that I'm just changing the name of the site itself. So this is for me, it's really a game changer. And so when I saw how this worked with GearSet and Salesforce, it really made a lot of sense because you have people who have learned how to extend reports, create flows in Salesforce, which are similar to views and flows or ECA flows in Drupal. That didn't write any code to do that, and they are able to get those changes in front of developers or information architects, site sysadmins to review, and then those changes can be deployed as long as they're sane changes that meet whatever requirements you have. So in the session, just flip over to presentation again. Summary, I talked about things that have not gone great in our transition to this workflow. So I'm going to go through those real quick, and then we can answer whatever questions I can. So one of the things we're doing right now is we have Drupal 9 sites that are running in production, and so we're keeping the plane in the air while building the new plane on the ground. And that, again, has proved very difficult. Those sites are still Drupal 9. They're getting incredibly difficult to keep running as all development, all automated testing from Drupal has moved on to 10 and now 11. So when I started at DU, I was told that we were just weeks away from being able to upgrade to Drupal 10. And the only thing DU was going to need to do is test everything that had been upgraded. And that upgrade is still in the works because all of the development resources that where the house was originally built have moved on. And so I did a presentation for IT and marketing's leadership that kind of talked about this, that we built this house. When we built it, it was in a great location. But over time, the resources, the foundation we built on has eroded. We need to move on. And we could lift the house up and move it, except our house looks more like the one on the left here, where years of features added however you could get them added, with the only check on whether they would be merged or not was a visual check to make sure they rendered correctly, gave us a house that looked more like this. And if we tried to lift that up and move it, it was going to fall apart. So we had to lay a new foundation and really kind of start this process over. I should have pushed much harder to turn more things off. We had about 200 modules running on even very small sites. We used everything in a kitchen sink approach that came over from when the sites were hosted as an Acquia Site Factory build. So we had a monolithic code base. And so even our smallest sites had every module in the code base that the largest site had. And this has just made it very difficult to upgrade these sites. My team is entirely new. We hired for location more than Drupal experience. So we hired developers, but they weren't Drupal developers who had done this type of work before, because the university wanted people that could at least work in a hybrid capacity in Denver. And so I wish I would have pushed harder to hire developers regardless of location based on their experience. And I really wish we would have hired an agile coach. So I know the marketing group is really tired of hearing me say that our Drupal code base is not good. They are equally tired of hearing me talk about how we're not doing agile correctly. I learned agile working for Civic Actions. If you've ever worked with that group, they treat agile like religion. And it's hard for me to see people do agile in name only, not see the results they're expecting in changes in velocity, deliverables, and then kind of blame the like fake agile that we're using for the lack of progress. So the other thing that an agile coach would give us is the same thing we got from Mike Anello, which is a huge burden off my shoulders as being the person that is constantly telling people that these things are wrong. By bringing in someone else that's an expert in a practice like Agile or Drupal, they don't have to take my word for it. There's someone else adding to the conversation, saying the same things I've been saying. All right, we made it through. I know I talked really quickly, but I'm happy to answer whatever questions people have if I can. And again, the person that wrote the config PR module is also on the session. Marcelo works for Acquia and was nice enough to write something that also works on Pantheon. So thank you, Acquia, yet again. What can I answer? We have 5 minutes. All right. Oh, Bernardo's clapping, not asking. No one has any questions. Marcelo, you don't have any questions?
I'm gonna think about a question.
Where are you, Marcelo, by the way?
Let me just turn on my camera. I live in London.
So what time is it there?
It's 9:40 something. 9:41.
Well, thanks for putting in the extra hours today.
Yeah, that's fine. I live in London, but I'm originally from Brazil.
Okay. Yeah, I use the 1x Internet GitLab patch API first, and that was great. But I started forking that module, and then someone else posted about Marcelo's module, and so we went and tried that first, and it worked very well. So I'm really excited to see this in production.
Kevin, thank you very much. Your insights are great as always. I wish I had more questions. Unfortunately, I have some answers.
So did you, my question is, So this is Drupal like Salesforce. Have you done anything where you've used Drupal and Salesforce together? Like
Yeah, I
attach?
actually have contributed a number of modules. So, like if you're using Pardot, I maintain the web form Pardot integration. I have used the Salesforce suite on lots of projects. I didn't talk about it. You could do a whole session about it. Most universities use the educational data architecture. Jacob Barakowitz has done some amazing work creating a similar structure for schemas so that your content objects match a standard outside of your personal preference for what to name fields, how to create these different objects. And so there's a lot of similarities there as well, that once you kind of establish a common data schema, this work is much easier. So we have a project right now where we have events flowing from several systems through MuleSoft into Salesforce. We have been using a solution called Content Sync to synchronize events on the Drupal websites, and we are going to switch that to pull a new event content type that is modeled after the fields as they exist in Salesforce, instead of creating an event content type in Drupal for how you would want it to look from the CMS perspective. Because we're treating Salesforce as the canonical source of truth for what those objects look like, we are mirroring that configuration. And then the Salesforce suite module provides a great interface for mapping between the two. But you could do a whole session about how to integrate Drupal with Salesforce. But yeah, that part is substantially easier than managing the config on the CMS side compared to all of the solutions you have access to in Salesforce.
And the reason I ask is we are probably going to start working with Salesforce a little bit, but we're a Drupal shop. Our websites are in Drupal. I don't know if those will actually interact, but do you have any recommendations on how to maybe quickly learn Salesforce or what to
Yeah.
focus on?
Trailhead, literally, if you sign up for an account on Trailhead, they are going to hold your hand in spinning up a sandbox, just like you would spin up a Drupal CMS sandbox on Pantheon, and walk you through the basics of the Salesforce interface, Salesforce admin. But you can just keep going with it. So you can go all the way through like how to develop reports, which you're going to find really similar to working with views, as well as how to create custom Lightning Web components and add those to do kind of fancy charting features, things like that. So the similarities between content modeling in Salesforce and Drupal are remarkably similar. So I don't find a whole lot of issue moving back and forth, with the exception of how Salesforce names everything. You don't get to choose the machine name of your fields in Salesforce, so you have to like kind of understand its naming convention when you're mapping things between the two solutions. But yeah, Salesforce, when tightly coupled with Drupal, that's my jam. I love it. It is so powerful, so effective from a marketing standpoint. There's so many things you can do with Marketing Cloud to drive automation for your university. So yeah, again, hit me up on Slack, on Mastodon, wherever, LinkedIn, Kevin Beard Drupal. You can find me.
Okay. You also mentioned a person called Mike. I don't know what the first name, last name, and maybe their contact information, if you want to put that in chat or if you have it
Mike or
somewhere.
Marcelo? Marcelo's the one that wrote the config PR module that we're
I
using.
thought that
Mike
I was thinking
Anello.
about
Sorry.
the one that's training.
Yeah, Mike Anello. It didn't even occur to me that someone wouldn't know Mike Anello.
Oh yeah, we don't know.
Mike Anello runs Drupal Easy. That's the name of his shop. He's not the only vendor. I wish I had more time. There's there's a number of people that you can buy Drupal training from. Acquia provides a lot of certifications that are kind of pre-canned best practices as well. But yeah, Mike's training. So he has limits on how far he'll go. I don't think he would try to train you in Salesforce Drupal integration.
Oh, okay.
He did add a Salesforce or a single directory component module for us that he is now offering as an option to anyone else that wants to take that training. So yeah, I don't know of anything specific about Salesforce and Drupal, but yeah, if you want to talk to Mike, if you can convince him to do it, I'd be happy to help him develop that curriculum.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions? I don't want to monopolize the time. Well, this was a great session. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thanks for having me, and thanks for everything you guys do for open source and Drupal.
Thank you, Kevin, for your kind words that you put into your email today about supporting open source. I think it's extremely important time to support open source. So thank you for being here and
Yeah. And Irina, I hope to see you when you're in Denver. So
I'm going to be in Denver on June 10. I will not be in Denver, Colorado, in Drupal Colorado camp this year. I will be presenting at Digital Collegium, which is higher ed web.
Yep.
And things that you started originally with Backdrop are kind of moving forward. And we're going to have Campus Drop presentation, which was conversion of Web Express into Campus Drop.
Yeah. Yeah. So I hope I'm going to be able to make it to the actual session, but if not, we should connect while you're in town. I saw Tim Stocker was on here too. So
Yeah,
we'll make
yeah.
that happen. All right.
Very much
Everyone, I
looking
gotta
forward
jump.
to that. Thanks again.
Reach
Thank
out
you.
if you have any questions.
Thanks. Bye-bye.